So, hey, this is Ursula back with my favorite ladies. That would be Sonia and Jackie. And so I have something I want to talk about this week.
Let's talk about sex,
That's
baby.
it. I want to talk about sex, right? So I got this therapist, Jillian, therapist to the stars. I talk about her quite a bit. Therapist to the stars because she used to see 20 people that I worked with. They really should have just embedded her in the place, right? And so we've been having this discussion. I have overcome many triggers or whatever in my life, right? But there's 3 that still hold some pull on me, and they are sex, body image, food actually, and money. Money's getting a lot better, but sex and body image or the pull of food really still, I haven't figured it out. And so she keeps challenging me to find out what's in common, what all 3 of them have in common. And besides the fact that they still can send me off my game, I'm not really sure what that is. But so we started talking a couple weeks ago about the fact that they're tools, right? So they're tools. And so I've really been mulling this over in my head, like, you know, I still haven't gotten anywhere with it, but sex is a big hang up for me still. And it's funny, we have somebody at the She Hive now. That's pretty much all she fucking talks about is sex. Actually, she has a whole podcast around it, right? You know? And it's funny because, so Laura, so when Laura's talking about it all the time, it doesn't necessarily make me that uncomfortable, but I can talk about it more with her than I think I can with my husband.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And so I'm just curious. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of shoulds when it comes to sex, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you should act like a whore. You should, you know, like.
But you should also not be too much of a whore.
Exactly, right? You know, and Brian and I went through, so I'm going to share some stuff about our marriage. I hope he's okay with me sharing this much about
He
it.
will be now.
Yeah, right.
You're going to find out.
He's not here. And so anyway, we went through this period, like when we first got together, because we were younger and we were pretty carefree because I was out of work, you know. We partied a lot, right? You know, and it led to some really fun, rowdy sex, right? I don't want to spend the rest of my life a drunk whore. And so, you know, it really threw a wedge in the way that we, I mean, for a good while when we came together, it was just party time, and real, like, intimacy, not just drinking and getting down, right? It has always been something that I'm still learning how to do well, right? And, so, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but there is this, you know, but yeah, so that's where I was going with this. You should be a whore, but not too much of a whore, right? So every once in a while, I just let loose when Brian and I are together. Like, you know, when we go on vacation or whatever, I don't drink very often, regardless of the fact that you just saw us all doing a shot right before we started the podcast tonight. But that's about as much as I'm going to drink for a month, right? Or till we're together in 2 weeks. And, you know, I don't drink a ton, but every once in a while, him and I are together and I just totally let loose, right? You know, and I go have a couple drinks or a lot of drinks, right? And then the next day, he's like, almost shaming me. You won't believe how you acted last night. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know,
I was there.
You know, but no, a lot of times I wasn't. You know? Like there's still videos he has that I won't let him publicly release because I don't remember them of me. And but I'm like, dude, you love it when I get drunk and party with you, but now you're making me feel bad for getting drunk and partying with you. There's so many like weird shoulds that are attached to sex.
Oh, it's interesting because a lot of the stuff that you said, you said it sort of in a comical way because it's painful. You're sort of doing that. But the thing that seemed to be the running theme is the things like you were saying, I don't want to be a drunken whore anymore. What you're really saying is I want to be present during that.
Oh my God. You tell me so much. See, my therapist makes me figure it out all about myself. This is why I love you too, because you just tell me what I should think. Should think. But no.
Yeah. But
Ding, ding.
Yeah. Every single thread of everything that you just said is all about vulnerability and being present. And you're not wanting to be vulnerable in those moments.
Yeah. Right.
And you know, we don't talk about the fact that sex is you assume that everybody else has these really healthy sex lives. And
what healthy is. Let's back that train up.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think it's the same fit for anyone. I think if there was a commonality of people who are in healthy, intimate relationships, whether it's sex or mental or whatever, there's a lot of communication.
Yeah.
And actually some of the healthiest sexual relationships or intimate relationships I've seen are people who are in poly or lifestyle or BDSM, because there has to be this huge amount of communication around them, because they got to make sure they continue to communicate so that nothing weird happens that's a deal breaker.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I was always taught growing up in this, in a very traditional household, that all of those things were weird, right? But no, like, the older I get, the more I just realize, like, what works for you works for you.
Yeah.
If
Well, and also there's another thing is there's a stigma of you should be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're only having sex 3 times a week, you don't have a good sexual relationship. But then we get to a certain age, and honestly, I think it hits men more than women, because first of all, women get hornier.
Yeah.
Second, but men have dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's major ED issues, and so now there's the pressure with Cialis and Viagra to make sure that you don't have an ED issue. But here's the fun fact. Men's testosterone drops because they get to be more caring at this point in their life, and what a gift for them.
Yeah.
They don't see it that way, but I'm just going to remind them. But what's great is that as we get to a certain age and things aren't working the same way, and we're not going to be hopping into the sack and getting footprints on the ceiling. True story.
True story that I want to hear.
I'm over here doing the math.
Jackie's not that tall.
They weren't my footprints, I'm just saying. But you're not going to do that when you're in your 40s, 50s.
Well, I've also gone through menopause, and menopause fucks with you big time. Like, I mean, just the change in hormones. And actually, Sonia, you were talking about there's a place in Royal Oak. Where is it that you've been going to for your gyno visits?
Women First.
Yeah, Women First.
Oh, yeah.
And I've actually been thinking about, I really want to go make an appointment with them, because my gyno doesn't talk to me about the change in hormones. It's just like, you can't get pregnant anymore. Yeah, also.
That's all your value is.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't get pregnant anymore, so that's all that matters to you.
Yeah.
Well, in that whole sexual realm of things too. I mean, because it's very an internal process for women. I mean, literally and emotionally, it is an internal process for us. We're really vulnerable. So when I had a conversation with my daughter about when she became sexually active, and I said, okay, so that's an internal process for you, and you can get way more damage than a guy can. And so remember that you own the cookie. Mm-hmm. You are the one making the rules.
Yeah.
And she repeated that to a lot of her friends, which I love. And so in that whole process, we're taught to, you don't be a whore. Mm-hmm. I wanna. What is it? Something in the streets and something in the sheets. I can't remember.
A freak in the street, a lady in the streets, a freak in the bed.
Yeah.
So we have to be both things. No pressure.
No, you have to be all things all the time to everyone.
Yeah.
And so with that process, there's another thing that happens is that people feel that they have a right to talk about our uteruses, vaginas, labias. I mean, that they have a say in what happens. And they're weird stuff that goes on in that world too. So, but yeah, because what's great is that for these young women that work, well, not the young women that work for me, the young women that come into my lives, because they really don't talk about this at work. It's not appropriate. But the women young women who come into my lives, and I talk about, so how's your sexual health? And they're like, what? Why are you talking to me about this? I said, talk to this about amongst your friends.
So I have to tell you, so I didn't have kids, but I do have a stepdaughter, and I had to have the talk with her. And I'm not sure what talk had been done with her beforehand, but I still remember the reason I won't go into the whole story why I had to have the talk with her, but I did. And she knew I was coming to her. She was still living with her mom at the time, and I was driving to her house to have the talk with her, and she knew I was coming, right? Mm-hmm. And she was so scared by the time I got over there. But the funniest part was I was so nervous the whole drive to her house, like, God, I hope I don't fuck this up. Yeah. Because I didn't want to shame her, because she was just, she was starting to experiment with sex, and we had found out about it. And that's a really weird, she was starting to have sex. Okay. And, I didn't want her to feel bad about it, but I did want her to be smart about it. And but it was so funny, like, because when I got to her house where she was living with her mom at the time, she was literally sitting on the front porch crying by the time I got there because she knew what was coming to her, you know. But I'm sure she thought that she was going to get, scolded or shamed or whatever. But it was just so funny because I'm like, I know she's nervous. I'm 10 times more nervous because I really don't want to fuck this up with her.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. I mean, you were talking a little, Jackie was talking a little bit about, ED and talking about like as you age or whatever. But I think if we look at both sides of the spectrum, I know with my own marriage, a lot of the things that we both start figuring out as we got older is also the stupid idiotic rules that are placed on men of you have to conquest, you have to conquer.
Mm-hmm.
It's all this thing. And then once we both started getting older and shedding all the bullshit we've been fed,
Right.
that then we started having actual intimacy.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right,
it was,
right.
yeah, so it ended up being like having to restructure our whole lives, our whole intimate lives,
Right.
being actual intimacy and thinking that as as a lot of people are raised, especially women, are to think intimacy is sex. They're intertwined.
Yeah.
And it's like they're not, actually.
Yeah.
You can just have sex and have zero intimacy.
Right.
You can have intimacy without having sex. And so unlearning all that and then relearning in the confines of your marriage, if you've been married for a long time, of like, oh, and this is this new thing and this is what it means to us, is a process.
Yeah, our first, so Brian and I, every once in a while, we'll go see our counselors together. So we each have separate counselors at the same practice. And then every once in a while, he'll come he'll come with me to mine, or I've been invited to his. It hasn't happened yet, but our first assignment.
Just not yet. I'm not ready. Not yet.
It's not me.
I know. You've told me. Not yet.
Yeah, Brian's still prepping for I don't know what the fuck is going to happen when I finally do go to see his therapist with them. But they've been prepping for me coming to see.
Like 2 years?
2 years, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
I think it's finally going to happen next Monday, though. So
we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know what that's all
Report
about.
back next
Exactly.
Principal's office is happening.
So our first assignment when we really started talking about sex and therapy and intimacy was we had to go around and decide how we were going to fix up our house. But it was it was really interesting because, I'm all down to business. I've got my pad of paper and I'm like, come on, Brian, we're going to go room to room and decide what we're going to do with this house, And I was all excited, and I had a special notebook just for this, washi tape, And he's like, well, that's easy. We're just going to fix the garage first. And he went back to football.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
And thus explaining your intimate life.
Exactly.
Right.
Overcomplicating it. We're just going to do this one thing.
Yeah.
Just drop trowel.
totally.
We're fine.
Right, yeah.
But,
Chop, chop.
yeah. But women don't have a space to talk about these issues anywhere. And I don't even know that men do, but I'm not really that worried about them at this moment.
But I don't think men do in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And women don't at all.
Yeah.
Because women shame women, men shame women.
Yeah. But where do you go to talk about these things? Because this is one of those big taboos we do not. And it's so funny. That's part of what I really like about Laura, that she actually brings it out into the open. So the woman at the She Hive that talks a lot about sex, that she brings it out. But it's a little bit more in your face than even I'm comfortable with sometimes, right? So where do we go to have safe conversations about sex?
A toy store.
True story.
Actually, that is another true story. It's like the folks at work at the adult toy stores, they will actually freely, openly have conversations with you about that. And it was in my in my 30s when I'm in a stable relationship and all this other stuff, and it was explained to me by a gentleman working at an adult toy store how actually sexy and desirable I am. Now my husband was there too, and but I was like, and it was like in this non-threatening way, and I was like, oh, so it was a really weird, sexy situation, and
Weird, sexy situation.
no safe word was needed.
Right. Hey, lady, are you ready to ring up?
It's like 2 drinks and a shot in, and we're going to talk about sex. This is why we're talking about sex, just so you know. But
I just wanted another drink, and then suddenly I heard in the room, I was
I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to back up. I don't know what's
here.
about to happen.
I'm just going to giggle through this whole thing.
And there's a 50-gallon drum of lube, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, I'm so quickly losing control of everything that's going on around me.
Well, we're talking about
Can we just discuss one thing about lube? Let's just discuss a couple things. One thing I find funny is I was sitting with a group of women, and we all started talking about. I host another podcast, and the co-host on there is literally who I was joking about. We were sitting in the basement of our friend's house.
Yeah,
and I mentioned like I buy all my potentially embarrassing stuff online. And
on
I'm like,
Amazon.
I even buy my lube, and she's like, you can buy lube online? Like her whole face lit up.
It is amazing what you can buy on Amazon, right?
That's why I brought up the 50-gallon drum.
Yeah.
But the lube joke is, some friends of mine are at an adult toy store, and we're buying stuff for a bachelorette party. I'm completely on.
Sure.
That's what we were there for at that particular time.
Totally what that black blow up thing was on mine too.
I know, right?
But so I'm
all those straws.
I'm more in the line of conversation with Brian, where I'm like, I get in and get the dick straws, get whatever the shit is you're gonna get. Like I'm unamused by the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, and so I'm staring off like I'm in another place in my head, because it's not like I have a problem with the toy store. I have a problem with the store that we're in, because it's just gross.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like somewhere else in my mind. So in the mind of the woman working, I'm staring at the whole wall of like the 1,000 different varieties of lube. I don't realize what I'm doing. I'm going off somewhere in my mind to be somewhere else. And she says, this one is all natural and it lasts 7 hours. To which this is what I blurt out. I have no censor sometimes. I blurt out, I go, 7 hours? I'm like, 45 minutes and tag me out. I'm making a sandwich. I'm like, what am I making, a porn? Like 7 hours? Like, I'm like, first off, who tested
You
that
haven't
out?
lived yet.
I'm like, who tested that out though? Like, who knows that lasts 7 hours? Like, are just going to sets of porns?
I'm a woman of a certain age. 7 hours and my hip would be displaced.
Right. It's been 10 minutes. Are you done yet?
Do we need to fix that crack on the ceiling? Yeah. I feel like that might be structural.
I got to tell you, the lube that I just recently bought is also sold for thigh rub, and also as a lovely like hair oil.
Oh, hey. What is it?
It's called Uber Lube. Sponsoring.
It's nice to know that Jackie has Astroglide in her hair at all times.
I know, right?
So Astroglide is my lube of choice.
So I got Uber Lube at
Uber Lube.
I know, right?
Did you get it from your Uber driver? Did you get it at
I
IKEA?
ordered it up on my phone.
She got it at IKEA next to the meatballs.
3 handy sizes per size.
50-gallon drum.
I like the travel per size. Why do I need a travel purse size? I haven't figured it out yet.
You live a way better life than I do. I don't know.
Because I haven't been that.
Don't
lucky.
shake hands with Jackie.
So we went through this phase at my old job. We went through this phase where everybody was hosting those pure romance parties, right?
Yeah.
I hosted some too, but I always remember like they would have your travel vibrators. Like, you know, it would look like a lipstick, but it was a vibrator. And I'm like, do you just sit in the office? And
I can't find the batteries to replace on those. I'm just kidding.
Wow, I'm no longer having meetings in your office.
The weirdest thing that ever happened at a pure romance party is I invited my mother to one, my mother and my aunt. And
I'm
God
dying.
bless
I'm
you.
dying inside right now. Just hearing that.
and they came to the party. And
Probably later too, but anyway.
oh no, I gotta choke.
Hairball.
Yeah, and the warm up exercise is that
Stop it. Stop it right now.
The hostess or the lady who ran the party, excuse me, put a strap on me.
Stop.
And made me go around and introduce myself to everybody, and they shook my hand, but they weren't shaking my hand. They were
You're
shaking my
your
strap on.
penis?
My mother shook my strap on.
There is not enough therapy to fix that.
Story.
Jillian is going to be rich off of you.
She is. I'm putting all 7 of her children through school.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Here's another good story.
This is
Okay.
a movie. This isn't real life. This is a
great
movie.
It's a great story. So I just moved into my husband and I just moved into our new house, and it was before my mom got sick. And my mom wants a tour, and my sister's with them. And we're taking them on the tour, and the next thing I know, my sister comes up behind me and goes, "You might want to put the lube away that's on your dresser." doing everybody. I'm like, oh.
She's like, is this a big hard lamp on the nightstand? Why does it vibrate?
How do you shift
Is this a flashlight?
Why is there a 50-gallon drum on your
Personal massager. Yeah, what's a 50-gallon drum for? I'm going to make a barbecue.
It's a real rub. It's an overall rub.
Actually, though, so Uber Lube you can use as thigh
rub.
chub rub too.
It doesn't.
This reminds me of
Okay.
Grace and Frankie when Frankie's making the papaya lube.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Grace actually puts it on the
On her
toast.
toast, yeah.
Reminds me of.
Oh, ladies, well, with this, I think it's time for us to pull out a should from the should box.
Make it a good one. You got to pull it this time.
Okay, I'll pull. I haven't pulled anything.
At least in 2 weeks.
We're laughing too hard. I didn't make the sound.
Okay. You should let men lead.
In bed. So now from now on, we're going to put in bed
Wait,
after
I'm just
every
going to start picking them all out. Wait, I should be young and married to have a child
in bed. It's like a fortune cookie.
I hate all you people.
You should always act like a lady
In bed.
I'm not throwing these. I'm putting these back in here. We might come back to these someday. You should always look pretty
In bed.
There's
Yeah.
nothing pretty about socks. I'm
No,
sorry.
that O face is not okay.
You should have your shit together
In bed.
Okay.
It works.
Especially shit.
Yeah. But this about you should let men lead. Do we even want to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's so dumb. It's hard to even
I
give
don't
it
know.
any airtime.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my face hurts from laughing so hard. About you should let men
All right,
lead.
I will say this: you should let whomever the person is, regardless of gender, lead if they're good at leading in what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what?
it.
You know what? I'm going to flip that a little bit. We are all 100% leaders of our own lives. And leaders know when to lead and leaders know when to follow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they know when to give ground to other people who might have a better idea or are more passionate about it. And so if there's that just wow, let men lead. This is why I created my own world.
So, somewhat related to both topics that we've been talking about tonight. So, a girlfriend of mine and I were out to dinner one night, and she's been exploring the BDSM community, and so she was telling me about I don't think slaves are the right word, but slaves, and servants.
Slaves is the right word, I believe.
That I could get a slave to just like clean my house.
Yeah, I swear to God, we have the same love language. If you could just take my car up to Jack's and get it detailed, I would be like
I don't
smoking
care.
a cigarette and taking a nap. I'm so
I don't
fulfilled.
care what you wear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just bring it back.
So
Ball
she-
gag, corduroys, whatever.
Exactly.
I don't care.
A corduroy ball gag. So
Thing is,
Felty.
yeah. So she sent me to this website of this woman who had all of the different positions open, listed on her website that she had open. And you could work for her and what your tribute was to her. And so she was looking for a sommelier slave. And your tribute was this many bottles of wine to her every single week. Or you could be her handyman slave, and your tribute was to fix the stuff around her house.
She's not in BDS. She just figured out psychology and get people to work for her
Right.
for free.
I'm just like, do people do this shit? And why are we not all doing it? Because if it would make somebody happy, do you know how
Okay.
happy it would make me?
you want a story?
Yes, please.
So I had a friend,
Okay.
A friend.
and she is a dom,
Okay.
and she said, "Hey, can you do me a favor? I need to do some humiliation with my sub, and I need another person. Will you show up?" And I'm like, "All right." So I really need you to wear pantyhose too. All right. So I go.
I'm more appalled about the pantyhose.
Right. I'm over here like,
I'm like, I
You're
had
gonna
to
get
go.
a yeast infection.
I had to go buy some legs.
I had to crack open that egg and
I know.
shimmy in them.
I know. I was like, you're gonna make me wear pantyhose. Oh my God. So there was a thing, there was a scene and the stuff, and there was no sex.
In the scene and the stuff.
And the scene and the stuff.
And the
I just
pantyhose.
like there was I don't even no, I don't want to go there. But the thing is I couldn't stop laughing. I am a horrible
Dom.
Dom. So then, and so it's like, I want you to say this to him. I want you to say this to him. I'm like, get on your knees. Because I couldn't stop laughing. And I do have another friend who was a phone sex.
Mm-hmm.
Man, she made bank. It was great.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell my daughter that's how she paid for college, but my daughter doesn't need to know that. So
well, she knows now.
she doesn't listen to this stuff. It's okay. I'm too weird for her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how are you keeping a straight face? Because this is hilarious.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm ironing a shirt.
I know. Get on your knees.
Get on your knees and pick up that fabric softener.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, if it really would make somebody happy to clean my shit up, I really want to make somebody happy.
You want to bring me 2 bottles of wine every week and it makes you happy? Aces.
Like, I don't see how it can possibly be wrong, except that there's a part in me that feels like I am playing on some childhood trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I felt really weird. So I'm like, this is not my scene.
Yeah.
And then there was she had this whole discussion with me whether it was a dom or a sub or a switch. And I'm like, no. No.
Yeah.
I'm just
across the board. No.
So I think,
and yet at the same time, I love my Kindle porn, and I will read some.
There's Kindle porn?
Oh, girl, we'll talk. That's why I have Prime.
Well,
so many connotations for Prime.
Will it just read to me because I never read a book? Well, is there Audible porn?
Oh yeah, there's some that are on Audible. I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay.
I got my faves. Although I gotta tell you, I got one, and I didn't realize it was dirty until my daughter and I are on a road trip.
Oh no!
And it got to a scene, and I'm like, awkward. She goes, yes. So we turned that off. She's like, how?
She's smashing her head against the
Because it was
glass.
coming out of my phone.
Scarred her because I still remember a road trip, even more scarring than my mother shaking my strap on.
How is this possible? How is there anything worse than this?
I still remember my mother and I coming home from a river rafting trip when we lived down in Texas, and Dr. Ruth came on, and she's like, and she played it. Even when Dr. Ruth was still on the radio, and she let it go, and she's just like turned to me like, are there any questions you might have?
Oh, stop.
Oh, bless her heart. Bless, that was really hard for her.
Yeah, and I was like, no.
So my husband is really good at dirty texts, and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, I start to text something. I'm like, that's the stupidest shit I ever heard. We're kind of like, I gotta be really.
You know what I really want you to do? Make me a chicken dinner.
Right. Waiter.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do you even do that? And he goes, well, you think about this and this and this. I'm like, even when you're not horny, I mean, when you're horny, you can come up with all kinds of stuff. And then you look at it later going, oh, I said that? Oh, that's gross.
That's gross.
So I'm trying to come up with something. So he goes, your challenge today is to come up with something saucy, innuendo, but not overt. I'm like, okay, I can do that. So in the middle of the day, I'm like thinking about it. So I'm overthinking this. And so I come up with something like a little innuendo, but not blatant. And I'm really proud of it. And I send it to him. And then I get text back that says, Mom.
Kids ruin everything.
And I'm like, oh my God. Which is like 14 oh my gods in a row in the text. And her response was, we shall never speak of this again.
No kidding.
So she's so ruined. I have broken her forever.
You've broken me with the story.
Mom. It was in the middle of a school day. She was in high school.
The only way that story would have been funnier is if that's how your husband responded, because it was so tame.
I sent
Mrs. Cleaver?
I screenshotted the whole thing and sent it to him, and he's still laughing about it like 8 years later. Mom?
So do you and your husband still dirty text back and forth?
No, no.
Okay.
I was like,
No,
nope,
that's the end of that.
I'm never doing this again. And
I get pictures, dick pics from my husband every once in a while.
You know what's worse though is when you're in a meeting and you forgot to put your privacy settings on, and all of a sudden like a message is sticking up in your phone like, whoop. I hope nobody saw that.
said that, you should have seen Sonia look like she itched everywhere when I said that. She's like, ah.
I'm going to need some hand sanitizer for my whole body, please.
No,
here's the thing: is does any woman ever like think about?
Oh, how pretty that is!
I'm gonna send you a labia picture right now.
Yeah.
Random.
Yeah.
I like the comedian Whitney Cummings talks about this.
Yeah.
And she says it's my. I laughed until I was snorting and sobbing in bed watching this, and she says she talks about men. And she's like, talks about dick pics. And then she says, and the thing that makes it worse is she's like, men think this is attractive because what they do is they shave their balls. She's like, how dare you shave the most disgusting part of your body and think that it looks good?
Yes.
That's all I'm going to
Well, I always
say on
laugh.
that.
I laugh when I get them. I laugh or whatever. I don't actually hate when my husband sends them to me. I mean, no, there's nothing like
It's his language of love.
Yeah.
Brian, you've got an odd love language.
I still think you're hot.
He's totally divorcing me after this podcast is over. But I mean, there's something about like, hey, like,
Yeah.
whatever. It doesn't disgust me. No, it would disgust me if somebody else was sending me dick pics. But like,
Just for my husband, just note that I've not given out any personal information this entire podcast. We are still married. You still love me. There's no need to bring this up in marriage counseling.
we're never going to marriage counseling together
That's
again.
right.
So
It's all done.
Yeah.
Well, there's that Monday.
That's what I'm saying. It is the weirdest thing. Man, I'm sorry. We stayed in an Airbnb down in Florida. Had no airflow.
Yeah, the air was just ironic.
Yeah, it was.
Just a B&B.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just a B&B.
It was a mold B&B.
It was, man. Your clothes got moldy like one day in the closet. And
Little iguanas are stumbling around like,
yeah. So I ended up with it stuffed up, and now I totally forgot what it was. I was gonna. Oh, this whole Monday thing. So like Brian has this wonderful counselor that he really, really enjoys spending time with, and every week he comes back from seeing him, and he's like, "We talked about it, and we just have to have one more prep session before you come in." And I don't know why I'm going in.
I'm a little afraid for you.
I know, right?
he's going to tell you about his 11 other families overseas.
I guess.
He needs to get all the child support in order first.
And I'm like, what is it? I'm a little worried.
About his big announcement or something?
Yeah.
What are you announcing,
I
dude?
know.
I'd like you to meet Brad,
Yes.
my significant other.
That would be his brother. That would be really gross.
Well, that's why they need so much prep time.
So actually, I think because Brian and I think it's just his counselor wants to get to know me because they talk a lot about marriage and stuff. But and then they get sidetracked talking about like trucks and guns.
Guitars.
Yeah, trucks and guns.
I don't. There's room for that in a therapy session because
Totally.
I barely get it all out. Wait, I have 4 more things to tell you.
You emotionally vomit and then you move on.
Shut up. I spend all of therapy up until like 10 minutes before I have to leave, just like recounting everything that's happened, and then I bring it full circle 10 minutes, and I'm like, and now there's a lesson I need to learn. Help.
Oh yeah. Oh, you do that too?
Yeah.
I was like, I've got 17 people to tell on, so hang
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, just tell on. That's great.
She just sits across the room bored, filing her nails. We'll be here in a minute.
I'll be back when there's 10 minutes left to actually talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. Like she doesn't have to be in the room for the first 45.
Oh, here's my favorite thing. Okay, I'm going to stop you right here, and I want you to sit with this emotion for a minute. No, I don't want to.
I pay you to manage my emotions.
No, I just always tell her. I'm like, and I know I'm talking about this because it's all just it's really me I'm talking about. We'll get to that. And she's like, I'm not new here.
She's not allowed to say, bitch, please. It's not my first day with you.
Actually, she is, and she has.
We ain't new.
So, ladies, thank you so much for another wonderful week.
Sex talk?
That was really awesome. Thank you for indulging me in the sex talk. And
I haven't even started.
I'm scared and I need an adult.
no, what you
You are
need
the
is a
adult.
man that wants to pay tribute to us by cleaning our homes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What are my tributes? What is this? Like,
I know, like
like
really?
Mockingbird?
I'm all on
Mockingjay?
board. I'm all on board.
I really am. And
Hunger Games. That's
this
what I'm
lady
trying to
that that has the website, I'll have to find out who it is, and we can actually look at the website together sometime. Like she has a significant other lover, and who's not involved in this whatsoever. And all of her slaves, no, they don't touch her sexually at all, right? And
They just come and bring her stuff and do stuff for her.
yeah,
Oh,
I just
sweet
can't
Jesus.
I
possibly.
bet you it's a whole bunch of CEOs.
That would make my
know,
really
rich
rich.
guys.
You know? I don't know if Pete Carmanos wants to clean my house. He can.
Yeah,
You know,
that's I'm gonna need some pecan caramels and some wine.
can we bloop out that name? I want to get sued. Just a CEO I used to work for.
That's good. Yeah, well, remind me and I'll edit it out for you.
Oh my God.
Not the most recent one I work for, though.
She's talking about me. It's my handle.
Well, thank you so much. Until 2 weeks, ladies.
All right. We see you then.
See ya.
Bye for now.
Bye.